You know that moment when you finally decide to upgrade the sterilization process in your clinic, you click on a dozen listings that promise hospital-grade reliability, and then you get that sinking feeling because the pictures look perfect but the real-world reviews are a mixed bag? I've been there, scrolling through glossy product pages, trying to figure out if a 10187/10 in CH chamber will actually fit the trays I use every day, and whether the cycle times will keep up with a busy schedule. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. In this video I'm going to break down the Tuttnauer Classic 2540M Autoclave so you can avoid the disappointment and decide if it's the right fit for your practice. First off, let's talk about the type of buyer who usually lands on a Tuttnauer page. Most of them are small to medium dental offices, veterinary clinics, or even tattoo studios that need a reliable, single-chamber unit without the massive footprint of a hospital's eye sterilizer. They're looking for a machine that can handle a steady flow of instruments, comply with basic infection control standards, and stay within a modest budget. On the flip side, a large hospital sterilization department or a research lab that runs hundreds of loads a day will quickly outgrow the Classic's capacity. What makes the Classic stand out is its straightforward design. The 10187/10-inch chamber is big enough to hold a full set of dental handpieces, a handful of scalpel trays, or a standard set of veterinary surgical tools. Because it's a single-chamber unit, you won't have to juggle loading and unloading separate compartments. You just open the door, place your load, close it, and let the cycle run. That simplicity translates to less room for operator error, which is a real benefit when you have a mix of experienced staff and newer techs learning the ropes. Now, the practical strengths. The first thing you'll notice is the control panel. It's a tactile, button-based layout rather than a touchscreen, which means you can still operate it if the clinic's lighting isn't perfect or if you're wearing gloves. The cycle options include a standard gravity displacement steam cycle, a quick sterilize mode, and a vacuum assist option for wrapped loads. In my conversations with a few clinic managers, the quick sterilize mode saved them roughly 5 minutes per load. That adds up when you're trying to keep a patient schedule tight. Another point that often goes unnoticed until you actually use the machine is the water reservoir. The Classic uses a built-in tank that you fill with distilled water, and it has a clear indicator for low levels. Because it's a closed system, you don't have to worry about the kind of mineral buildup you sometimes see with cheaper models that rely on a direct water line. The downside is that you'll need to monitor that reservoir daily. If you forget to top it up, the cycle will abort and you'll have to restart, which can be frustrating in the middle of a busy day. Speaking of cycles, the actual time to a full sterilization run on the Classic is around 30 minutes for a standard load. That's not the fastest on the market, but it's consistent. If you're used to instant sterilizers that claim 10-minute cycles, keep in mind those often cut corners on temperature verification or only work for very small loads. The Classic's 30-minute cycle hits the 121C, 250F mark for the required hold time, which aligns with most regulatory guidelines for medical devices. In practice, that means you can load a tray, start the cycle, and have it ready before the next patient comes in, assuming you're not pushing more than a couple of loads per hour. Maintenance is another area where the Classic earns points. The unit has a self-diagnostic beep that alerts you when the pressure sensor needs checking, and the door gasket is a replaceable rubber seal that you can swap without calling a technician. However, the trade-off is that you'll need to schedule a professional calibration at least once a year to keep the temperature readings accurate. For a small practice, that's an extra cost to factor into your budget, but it's a standard requirement for any autoclave that wants to stay compliant. Let's talk about value for money. The price tag for the Classic sits in the mid-range for single-chamber autoclaves. You're not paying for the bells and whistles of a high-end surgical sterilizer, but you also avoid the pitfalls of a budget brand that might skip critical safety features. The real value comes from its durability and the fact that the parts are widely available. If something breaks, you can usually find a replacement gasket or pressure valve from a local distributor without waiting weeks for a backorder. Who should definitely consider the Tuttnauer Classic? If you run a dental office that processes 8 to 10 trays per day, a veterinary clinic with moderate surgical volume, or a cosmetic practice that needs a reliable way to sterilize reusable tools, this machine hits the sweet spot. Its size fits nicely into a standard utility room, and the control simplicity means your staff can get up to speed quickly. It also